Every now and then in the fish-keeping hobby, you stumble across something that completely messes with your brain. Something that just doesn't seem like it belongs. Well, let's dive right into this explainer, because today we're looking at a botanical curiosity from a recent fish-keeping journal that is absolutely guaranteed to make you do a double take.
So part 1. The underwater mystery.
Picture this. You're peering through the glass of a gorgeous, pristine aquarium. You've got your gently swaying green leaves, your little darting fish, and then, boom, down near the bottom, there's something totally out of place. It literally looks exactly like tropical fruit. Bananas? Underwater? You'd probably think, wait, did someone just drop a bunch of unripe fruit into the tank? It completely scrambles our visual expectations of what an aquatic environment should actually look like.
But hey, this bizarre visual isn't just a trick of the light. Back in a June 2026 post from a journal called Notes-on-Fishkeeping, part 266 to be exact, the author Ang documented this exact same thing, and their description hits the nail on the head. They wrote that it, quote, looks like a bunch of unripe bananas or even fingers hanging in the water. Fingers? Honestly, that slightly eerie description is just perfect, right? Because they just hover there in the water column, these thick, green, finger-like appendages. It's a truly bizarre visual that absolutely forces you to stop and stare.
So what on earth is this thing? Well, officially, the scientific name for our little mystery specimen is nymphoides-aquatica. But common sense prevails here, so it's widely and very appropriately known as the banana plant. And actually noted in their journal that they had never come across this peculiar aquatic plant before, calling it easily one of the most unique plants they've ever seen. And honestly, looking at the sheer weirdness of those underwater structures, it's pretty obvious why. It literally redefines what we think an aquatic plant can look like.
Moving on to Section 2. Tubers, not roots.
Okay, so whenever we see a big cluster of thick growths hanging out at the base of any plant, what's our first thought? Roots, right? Our immediate visual assumption is that we're looking at a root system meant to bury deep down into the gravel or mud to firmly anchor the plant. But we need to completely toss that assumption out the window here. The biological reality is wild. Those structures are not roots, not at all. They're actually nutrient-storing, buoyant tubers. The plant evolved these incredibly specialized growths not to tie itself down, but for pure survival and perfect positioning in the water.
The key takeaway here is that these fleshy, banana-shaped clusters are basically the plant's personal built-in pantry. They're buoyant tubers packed with stored nutrients. Because they're so thick and fleshy, they can hold on to all those essential reserves. And the coolest part? Because they are naturally buoyant, they act like little floaties. They literally allow the base of the plant to just hang there, perfectly suspended in the water, instead of sinking helplessly into the muck at the bottom. It's this genius, highly specialized biological adaptation that just so happens to be disguised as a tiny bunch of food.
Which brings us to Section 3, reaching the surface.
Let's quickly walk through how this fascinating spatial growth cycle actually works. Step 1 kicks off right down at the bottom, with those buoyant banana-like tubers just hanging comfortably in the water. Now, because they provide this super stable, floating base that's absolutely loaded with stored food, the plant can trigger Step 2, growing these long, incredibly thin stalks, or petioles. These stalks use that buoyant base as a launch pad to climb way up through the water column. And then finally, Step 3. Those stalks reach the very top of the water surface, and what do? They unfurl completely different structures, beautiful leaves that look almost exactly like a traditional lily pad.
It's a brilliant reveal, honestly. This just perfectly illustrates the beautiful juxtaposition of the banana plant. It's a total masterclass in biological contrast. Down below, hidden in the depths of your tank, you've got these bizarre, alien-like, fleshy fingers just hovering there. But then, connected by those thin-reaching stalks, you get this incredibly delicate, classic lily-like display right up at the surface. It's kind of like the plant is living two completely different lives at the exact same time. One is this strange, utilitarian survivalist down below, and the other is just pure classic beauty up top.
As Ang so perfectly summed it up in their journal entry, rather fascinating, right? It absolutely makes you rethink all the complex biology quietly operating inside a simple glass box. I mean, if a plant can literally disguise its survival tubers as a bunch of hanging bananas, all just to support a pretty lily pad at the surface, it leaves us with a pretty massive question. What other bizarre botanical secrets, what other hidden functional wonders are just lurking in plain sight in our everyday aquariums? Next time you find yourself staring into a fish tank, look a little closer. What hidden mechanisms might you be missing?